This is the set where we shoot our Wednesday weekly videos for our Patreon subscribers. And if you want to get on board and get extra Paul Harrell program content because you want to partner with us, you believe the show has value, you want to help us keep the show on the air, you want to help us grow the show, you want to help us make videos like this one even better, then you need to seriously think about subscribing to Patreon. It's patreon.com/thephp. That's patreon.com/thephp. Get extra content today, partner with us, and help build the Liberty Machine. We're asking you to partner with us for as little as $5 a month. Now, you can go up from there. You can go to $10 a month and get extra features, or $25 a month and become a Conduit Media Insider. But for $5 a month, you can really help us out. You can get extra content. You can see what we talk about on sets like this, and I promise you, you won't be disappointed. Thanks for watching. Back in a moment.
Paul Harrell, weekdays from 4 to 6. Learn more at paulharrell.com.
Welcome, State Representative Josh Miller. He is from District 66, and he knows a little bit of something about big government Republicans versus platform Republicans, don't you, Josh?
Hey, Paul, thanks for taking my call. Long-time listener, first-time caller. If you don't mind, could you tell me what you think the Razorbacks' chances are this weekend?
Oh, my goodness. Against the Crimson
Oh,
Tide.
wait. My bad. Wrong radio show, dude. I'm sorry.
Okay. I got you. Long-time listener, first. Maybe that phrase is popular on sports radio. I would say probably more so than talk radio, than traditional political radio, for sure.
I've always wanted to say it, Paul, and I thought this is my one chance.
This is your one chance. Hey, Josh, seriously though, what are the Razorback chances down in Tuscaloosa on Saturday?
Well, seriously, I think they are. The Razorbacks have a real opportunity here to bend the scoring curve, and maybe experience some slow growth in the Crimson Tide scoring. And I would say that the Razorbacks have about as good a chance of winning this ball game in Tuscaloosa on Saturday as the big government Republicans do of actually limiting government down in Little Rock.
Wow. So not at all. So you're giving them no chance at all. Oh, my goodness. That's a great analogy.
Well, to go, if you wanted to go Dumb and Dumber, I guess you could say there's like a 1 in 500 million chance, and
so you're saying there's a chance.
That's right.
So when you say the Hogs could try to bend the score curve, is that like when a big government Republican says we're bending the cost curve?
Exactly, and I would challenge any business person in the state of Arkansas that could be listening to us right now, and I hope you don't mind me doing this, Paul. But if anybody who is actually in business could call in and give a clear definition of exactly what it means to bend the cost curve, I would appreciate it.
But you hear that a lot. You hear that a lot down there. What does it really mean? What's the carefully crafted language behind bending the cost curve? Is it just like an excuse to allow a government program to continue to exist and waste taxpayer money?
Paul, I've been working on defining a lot of these political speak terms for my constituents and others who care to listen. And the definition that after careful research, exhaustive research, the definition that I have found for bending the cost curve is this. It means that we're spending record amounts of your money, but we don't want to come out and tell you that.
Wow. I think there was some of that in a Arkansas Democrat Gazette piece, I think it was last week, where they were talking about how the Medicaid expansion money is up. But then you start reading, the devil's kind of in the details, and they're celebrating because it hasn't increased 5%. It's only increased, like 3.4%, not the 5%. And because the task force says as long as it doesn't increase over 5%, so then they can write the headline, we're below forecast. And then that makes it think that if you just read that alone, you're going to think, oh, okay, well, we're not spending as much money. But in reality, below forecast can still mean you're spending more money than you did last year.
Well, Paul, that brings me to my next term, slow growth. slow growth. Now that I've defined that term as well, and that means that not as many people maybe are signing up for free programs, but they're not in fact shrinking. Because what I want to hear is somebody come out and tell me we're experiencing slow shrinkage. And I'm not hearing that. I'm hearing slow growth.
Yeah.
And, while I can celebrate the fact that we're not still in a state of rapid growth like we have been the last 2 or 3 years, but we're still growing. And I don't know of a Republican elected in the state of Arkansas to the legislature or any other office that ran on the ticket of continuing to grow government and reward the
The maintenance of a free society is a very difficult and complicated thing, and it requires a self-denying ordinance of the most extreme kind. It requires a willingness to put up with temporary evils on the basis of the subtle and sophisticated understanding that if you step in to do something about them, you not only may make them worse, but you will spread your tentacles and get bad results elsewhere.
I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers. We lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
You're listening to the Paul Harrell Program, brought to you by Conduit Media Group.
Hey, folks, welcome to the program today. My name is Paul. You have found the intersection of conservative ideas and reality where we are building a liberty machine. So glad that you're with us. One of the ways, if you want to call us or text us, feel free, sound off 870-275-9799 if you want to help us build this liberty machine. Or you can sound off on Facebook or our YouTube channel. Whatever floats your boat, pretty much. We didn't have time to go. Really, we had a ton of stuff yesterday, and we didn't get to it all. One of the things we didn't get to is the latest Conduit for Action article up at conduitforaction.org. The headline here is Lying by Omission. Legislators brag on military retirement bill, but omit it raised your tax burdens. This is an argument that the establishment is desperately trying to combat because they've been caught. They've not only been caught creating new taxes to carve out an exemption for military retirees, but now we have the numbers, and it's official. It's a net tax increase. It wasn't a revenue-neutral tax cut for one group that we can all agree is, amazing and sacrifices more than we can ever imagine. Most of us can ever imagine. It wasn't about that. This is a great piece. We'll throw it up on the screen for you, those of you watching at paulharrell.com and Facebook Live and YouTube. Strike up the band, start a parade. Have you heard the news? This year, the Arkansas General Assembly passed a law to exempt military retirement pay from the income tax. So why isn't Conduit for Action joining in the celebration? CFA supported a proposal to exempt military retirement pay for income tax, but did not support this snafu because it used veterans as pawns to raise the tax burden on Arkansans. I personally, when I was down at the Marble Palace during my coverage of this, I talked to veterans who were used. They were told to show up in this one committee room on the day that the bill was going to run, essentially getting rid of any opposition. They were in uniform. They were, and I pulled one of them aside and I asked them, do you know anything about the specifics in the bill? Do you know about a brand new tax on digital downloads? Do you know about the tax increases that everybody's going to have to pay, even military retirees on canned and soda? Excuse me. And they didn't. They didn't know, and it took a little bit of time. But at the end of my conversation, this man, he got it. He understood. He was like, "Oh my gosh, we're pawns. We've been used here." And that's the thing is, I wish I had an infinite amount of time to where I could have gone to each one of those veterans and explained to them what was actually happening. Very, very sad. Goes on, while politicians are patting themselves on the back for providing some tax relief to veterans who are receiving military retirement, their celebration of the legislation is a lie by omission. Instead of reducing tax burdens, the legislation increased the tax burden on Arkansans. Even veterans with military retirement pay will have some of their tax benefit eroded by new taxes in the bill. No one ever brought that up. Well, we did, but it goes on. What the bill did and did not do. The military retirement pay exemption was passed as HB 1164 by Representative Charlene Fite and became Act 141 of 2017. How did it help veterans? The new law benefits only veterans who receive military retirement or survivor benefits based on military retirement by exempting the retirement pay from the Arkansas income tax. It's estimated to be a cut of like $6.7 million when it takes effect in mid-fiscal 2018, and then $13.4 million by fiscal year 2019. Lynn Reynolds, the income tax administrator of the Department of Finance and Administration, everyone's favorite Arkansas government organization, said the average benefit to those with military retirement pay will be $462 a year. The benefit to veterans with military retirement pay is the only part the politicians want to talk about, though, and you can understand why, okay? When pressed further, Governor Asa Hutchinson and some state legislators will tell you the bill also includes an offset to balance the budget. This is the way Governor Asa Hutchinson put it. Joe, we've got the audio here. Will you pull this audio? This is the way Governor Asa Hutchinson put it when people were saying that the government should just absorb these tax cuts and not raise taxes elsewhere. Listen.
Please note that the other conservative and responsible approach was when it came to providing the tax cuts that's still going through the system for the military retirees, that we wanted to make sure that was paid for. So we didn't say, well, we're just going to absorb that. We have to pay for, we have to close off exemptions, and so there are many that, not many, but there were some that were saying we don't like to have those offsets. We don't like to have a paid for. We just want to absorb that into our budget. That's not a conservative, responsible approach, and we took that approach. I feel very comfortable with it.
Stop.
And
so it's not conservative to just let the government shrink, have to figure out. We've had this discussion. We spend every dime that comes in. And so he says it's not conservative to give a tax cut and the government absorb it by shrinking, by, doing some with less. Okay? So that's just FYI, something to think about, okay? When that audio came out, we played it a lot because it was just another example of how Asa isn't a conservative. He wants to define that as not being conservative. I think giving people tax cuts and the government acting accordingly by shrinking is a good thing. But you got to be willing to make the sacrifices in government, and Asa Hutchinson is not willing to do that for the most part. Apparently here he's not. But this was all supposed to be an offset to balance the budget. What they mean by offset is new taxes. For most Arkansans, all you get under the legislation is the privilege of paying new taxes. Politicians can't be straight with you about the offset for the military retirees. It's more than an offset. It's $5.9 million of an increase on Arkansans. It's not a wash. They're getting more money from you. Where does this dollar amount come from? According to the legislature's nonpartisan Bureau of Legislative Research, beginning in fiscal year 2019, the legislation will collect $5.9 million more than any tax cuts provided in the legislation. For fiscal year 2018, the legislation will collect $3 million more than it gives in tax benefits. And you can see this particular article, like all their articles at CFA, are cited. So the bill is a tax increase. It's a tax increase, period. They used veterans to get it. That's really the story here. Is the people we can all agree deserve our respect and care were used to give the Arkansas government more money. Where does the money go, though? Where are they going to put it? The $5.9 million tax increase, could it have just been an accident because of bad calculation, right? Maybe they didn't intend to get more than they offset, right? Maybe they didn't intend to get more from us. Maybe they really did intend for this to be a wash, and this is just, government estimates 101. You can never rely on them, which is true, by the way. You can't. However, Conduit for Action goes on. The first two sections of the bill are not about a tax cut. Instead, they're about transferring tax money to the Medicaid Trust Fund. How much will be transferred? Would you be surprised if it was $5.9 million? Section 1 of the bill sends $5.9 million to the Medicaid Trust Fund in 2018 and $2.9 million this fiscal year. Is the $5.9 million being sent to the Medicaid Trust Fund and the $5.9 million in additional taxes on Arkansans just a coincidence? No, it's not. Why send the money to the Medicaid Trust Fund, you may ask? Well, in 2013, Democrats and some Republicans bought into the idea that if Arkansas would adopt Medicaid expansion, a flood of federal money would solve all our Medicaid financing problems. Well, guess what? Who would have thought that implementing Medicaid expansion, fast forward, you'd be using veterans to raise taxes on Arkansans? You see how you compromise one of your principles? I'm against Obamacare, but I'm going to vote for it. Yada, yada, yada. Now you're using veterans to give them a tax cut, but you're really putting a tax increase on the rest. I mean, you know what I'm saying? I guarantee you, those pragmatic Republicans that went along with the Democrats on that, they would, I'll never do something like that. I'll never do something like that. Well, you will if you need the money enough and you're trying to save your political reputation and the decisions that you're about to make. You don't want people to say you ruined this state by expanding government, the largest it's ever been expanded. The bottom line is Obamacare Medicaid expansion is no longer free, and Arkansas must pay part of the costs. That's why they need every cent they can get. That's why they're putting that money in the Medicaid Trust Fund. Politicians are looking for ways to pour more money into the program, and that's the bottom line. Politicians who just can't stop bragging about the military retirement pay exemption scammed you. They used our appreciation for our veterans as a front to raise taxes. Instead of honoring veterans, the politicians used veterans as pawns to tax us more. What are the new taxes that you're going to be paying with this? The legislation added these new taxes. You got the income tax on unemployment compensation, a sales tax on internet downloads, and a sales tax on soft drinks. Hey, more on the other internet tax when we come back here in just a minute. The task force, or the tax force, met today. And I'll have I'll report on that here in just a little bit. He goes on, there are issues with each of these taxes. Conduit here is only going to address two of them. And the first one is interesting. You go all the way back to former Governor Mike Beebe, a Democrat who worked for years to lower the state sales tax rate on groceries. Although you may be thinking maybe this is not a big deal to put the full state sales tax on these two grocery items, soft drinks, candy, they're junk food. But it is a big deal because it's the first time any grocery items have been carved out for full taxation. It's the first time that's happened. The grocery tax is eliminated, but now we're going to start pulling certain items back into full taxation. So there's a good question here. In the future, what grocery items will politicians want to carve out for increased taxes next time? Think about it. While most politicians had no qualms about treating these two junk food items differently in order to tax them at higher levels, politicians refused to treat the items differently when Representative Mary Bentley tried to remove junk food as items that can be purchased under the food stamp program. Who will pay the new taxes? Everybody, even veterans who qualify for the exemption. It's disturbing that most veterans who served honorably, perhaps with difficult and distinguished service, only get more taxes. Our active military also get more taxes. Everyone gets taxes from the legislation. Politicians spend lots of time bragging on the average $462 a year benefit provided for veterans who have military retirement pay, but they don't tell you about the other tax benefit in the legislation. Legislation provided a special benefit for soft drink manufacturers. Yep, you pay for that too. That was very interesting. Raise the taxes on sodas, which just get passed on to you, but then give the soda industry or the syrup industry a tax break. Asa, you just heard, said, we just had the audio, that we have to offset to support the bill, but we now know that the bill produced a $5.9 million tax increase. If you want to see how your legislators voted on that, some of them were put in very bad situations by Republican leadership. But if you want to know how they voted, you can go to conduitforaction.org and click on the article. You got the House vote right here and the Senate vote right here. So, Joe, why do you think we got to have this money? I mean, we got to have it to pay for something, right? Well, if you're paying for something else, if you're paying for future, it's because you're spending it. And we here on the program know Governor Asa Hutchinson has been spending a whole lot his 3 years here. He increased spending $130 million his first year, $140 million his second year, $165 million his third year. I mean, it's almost $500 million. He keeps spending and spending and spending and spending. Yeah, or he goes on MSNBC or CNN and tells, the Trump administration that their plan to repeal Obamacare is no good. They got to have more flexibility, which really just means we got to have more money coming into the state of Arkansas. Pretty ridiculous, right? So, anyway, I know we're about out of time for this segment, but if you want to give me a phone call, you can call me or text me, whatever, 870-275-9799. That's 870-275-9799. We'll take a break, right, Joe? And we'll be back here in just a moment. Don't go anywhere, folks.
If you're like me, you believe that small business is the heart of Arkansas's economic engine, and it should be viewed that way by the politicians in Little Rock. Conduit for Commerce also believes, like you and I believe, policies that achieve less regulation and lower taxation help small business in Arkansas thrive. Other policies like small, constitutionally consistent government and reducing citizen dependency on government keeps it from growing and expanding its influence on our daily lives. Conduit for Commerce works every day to educate the general public and legislators on these important priorities in the name of Arkansas small business. By the way, contributions to Conduit for Commerce are tax deductible. Log on now to conduitforcommerce.org and click on Contact Us on the right side of the page. That's conduitforcommerce.org. Go there now and learn the facts on protecting small business in Arkansas.
In a world full of constituents with social media accounts, bloggers just looking to increase their page views, and a talk radio host who generally is just the worst, how are Little Rock's elite supposed to conduct business with such a lack of privacy? Introducing the 1835 Club, older and more refined than other clubs that claim discretion. The 1835 Club is for seasoned political veterans that want to conduct the highest form of aristocratic business with the public's money. Are you a schemer? Do you someday want a guaranteed flow of taxpayer money to support your business? Is it your dream to see the .gov domain at the end of your business website? Don't listen to the imitators. The 1835 Club is the place where corrupt politicians and businessmen hatch their next crony schemes. At the 1835 Club, we make lobbying safe and legal. Ethics. Why, of course. All business is done in an ethical manner. Just look for the sign above the door that reads, Loophole. Are you tired of the Capitol Police restricting your access to the roof after a perfectly good night of drinking? The 1835 Club has libations and a perfectly good roof. Other crony clubs that promise discretion try to lure you in by advertising bars made out of aeroplanes. Well, at the 1835 Club, instead of an airplane fuselage, We've got a space shuttle. No, not a bar. We've got an actual space shuttle that makes a daily run to the moon so members of the 1835 Club can have some real privacy away from the bloggers and taxpayers. Are you an Arkansas aristocrat? Do you want to be? It's the 1835 Club, and we work tirelessly to make sure the good old boy system remains alive and well. Join today.
Disclaimer. The 1835 Club reserves the right to deny membership to anyone who has principles. Any talk of the Declaration of Independence or the Constitution must be done in jest or, at the very least, with a condescending tone. And finally, the 1835 Club will be given a 25% commission of any agreements made between politicians and the business community.
PHP Parody. Watch Paul live at paulharrell.com. It's free and available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Because the Liberty Machine never sleeps.
Hey, big spender!
Please note that the other conservative and responsible approach was when it came to providing the tax cuts that's still going through the system for the military retirees, that we wanted to make sure that was paid for. So we didn't say, well, we're just going to absorb that. We have to pay for it. We have to close off exemptions. And so there are many that, not many, but there were some that were saying, we don't like to have those offsets. We don't like to have a paid for. We just want to absorb that into our budget. That's not a conservative, responsible approach. And we took that approach. I feel very comfortable with it. And I think without any doubt we could absorb this, and these will be economic drivers for our state.
All right, welcome back to the program, ladies and gentlemen. We can take the ASA face off of our online broadcast. For those of you that can't see what was going on, we're having fun here. You know, we got a cartoon version of Ace's head with underneath it reads ASA, but there's a dollar sign for the what's supposed to be an S. Anyway, I'm sure we'll make use of that in the near future. So the tax force met today, and I'm told a lot of things went down. The most notable thing that I got from the information, the descriptions, I guess, was that there was a lot of information that wasn't. There was a lot of information that was requested, and the tax consultants and Randy Bauer, the lifelong liberal Democrat that were hired, he didn't really have the information. The guy next to him didn't really have the information that a lot of legislators were wanting. There were some reports of them having old information, or people wanted more up-to-date information. It's fascinating stuff. You just think, why did we hire these guys? Why couldn't the BLR do this? Well, the fact of the matter is the BLR could have done it. But I will tell you this, ladies and gentlemen, the internet sales tax is alive and well. They want it. That's what they talked about. That's what they want really bad. They got to have new revenue from you, from me, and they want the internet sales tax. They even talk about how it's unconstitutional. They want it regardless. And this is in spite of the fact that this is an idea the Arkansas General Assembly should not be considering. ASA shouldn't be considering it. None of them should be considering it because it failed. You tried to pass it in the session and it failed. Period. I've got a message for everybody out there listening to the program. If you don't want the internet sales tax, you need to start telling your legislator you don't want the internet sales tax. I know you've already told them, and what did they do? The government apparatus and bureaucracy in this state, they got to your city councils. The Arkansas Municipal League started making your city councils pass resolutions saying they want the internet sales tax, as if giving the government more money is going to somehow save small business. It doesn't work that way. The government getting more money doesn't somehow save small businesses. Government getting more money is not going to make me go shop in a local store versus an online store. We're not even talking about the same variables here. If you take more of my money, I have less money to spend on everything, online and brick and mortar. What they promote doesn't make any sense. Again, the tax force wants to now force Arkansas to implement an internet sales tax. And I'm telling you right now, if you don't want it, you better let your legislators know about it. More when we come back.
Welcome those of you watching at paulharrell.com, Facebook Live, or our YouTube page, The Paul Harrell Program. This is the set where we shoot our Wednesday weekly videos for our Patreon subscribers. And if you want to get on board and get extra Paul Harrell Program content because you want to partner with us, you believe the show has value, you want to help us keep the show on the air, you want to help us grow the show, you want to help us make videos like this one even better, then you need to seriously think about subscribing to Patreon. It's patreon.com/thephp. That's patreon.com/thephp. Get extra content today, partner with us, and help build the Liberty Machine. We're asking you to partner with us for as little as $5 a month. Now, you can go up from there. You can go to $10 a month and get extra features, or $25 a month and become a Conduit Media Insider. But for $5 a month, you can really help us out. You can get extra content. You can see what we talk about on sets like this, and I promise you, you won't be disappointed. Thanks for watching. Back in a moment.
Paul Harrell, weekdays from 4 to 6. Learn more at paulharrell.com.
Reward folks for having no initiative to better their own situation.
Yeah.
So,
hey,
that's my take on that.
Josh, I love how organic our interviews go, but one of the reasons I wanted to have you on specifically was to talk about, I don't know if you've heard, but, you know, there is another task force, not on Obamacare, but this time to try to, reform the tax code. And, you know, at the very beginning of the first meeting for this particular tax farce, the Speaker of the House, Jeremy Gillum, said that we need to debunk the news reports and that this task force is not necessarily about recommending future tax cuts to the General Assembly. And I was like, wow, okay, well, so what is it for? You know, it's just going to be cost shifting, and then they're going to call it a tax cut. And people say, no, we still have high hopes for it. Well, now, last week, we find out that Jim Hendren and the tax farce hired a consultant, and the guy to head up this consultant group, his name is Randy Bauer, and he is a lifelong Democrat who tweets like a liberal and who has liberal ideas. And I didn't know if you had a response to that.
Well, I mean, I would say I had been made aware of that earlier today. A very smart guy had called and told me about it, and I got to looking into it and discovered that it's true. And, you know, I mean, here's my response is this, and it's sad that this is my first response, but it's like, you know, why should this come as a surprise? This, you know, we don't have enough people in positions who are actually genuine about wanting to shrink government, that want to actually bring real tax relief on all citizens. I want all of our taxpayers to experience some tax relief, and it's not that hard. You just, you've got to be willing. But I know exactly what you're saying, what they're wanting to do, and we're probably going to come out of this. I'm going to say it right now. I'll go on the record and say it right now. What the recommendation, whether it comes from this highly paid consultant or it comes from the governor's office or wherever it comes from, the recommendation is going to wind up
broadcasting across Arkansas and holding politicians accountable for what they say and do. The Paul Harrell Program.
Yeah, so this graphic that we have up on the screen here, Joe, put this back up. I think this is perfect timing. This is perfect timing. This this cartoon of Asa Hutchinson's head, and underneath it says Asa spelled with a $sign. You see that there. I think it's perfect timing that the tax force the tax force is meeting today. And this thing finally got finalized. So thankfully there's a cartoonist that helped us out with this, This is one of the reasons why you can help us out at Patreon, by the way. We take what you do, and we are trying to make the show and the Patreon videos, the extra content that you do pay for, better. But this was a concept that was too good, and actually went through, I think, 2 revision processes. I wasn't happy with it until I got, what I wanted here. But yeah, so here it is. I think it's fitting that the tax force is meeting, and this was all Governor Asa Hutchinson's idea. He's the one that steamrolled the people, the legislators who wanted real tax reform. They bowed down to him. They said, okay, we won't pass our bills. That would have passed, by the way. We won't have even a debate about real tax reform. Instead, we'll wait until not our standing committees look at this, but we'll wait until special legislators get picked for a special tax force that doesn't allow, that's going to meet during the interim, that's going to meet not when everybody else is down there and plans for it. So they had their meeting today, and I just think it's very interesting that our graphic gets finalized. This, I guess I found, I got an email notification as we were getting off the air. Didn't I, Joe? As I was getting off the air yesterday, I was like, oh, my cartoon's ready. My Asa face is ready. And you can see it. If you go to paulharrell.com right now, you can see it. Or you can go to Facebook Live, whatever you want. Folks, this next segment is brought to you by Conduit for Commerce. They put Arkansas small business first. If you want to know more, go to conduitforcommerce.org. That's conduitforcommerce.org. In this Conduit for Commerce segment, I would like to highlight their policy on performance-based budgeting. Performance-based budgeting. What is performance-based budgeting? Well, performance-based budgeting is essentially it's a way to manage your state agencies. Now, in this case, state agencies, they're bureaucracies. They answer to the executive branch or to ASA. And this is what performance-based budgeting is, or this is a paper on it. Traditionally, state budgeting focused on incremental changes in detailed categories of expenditures. And you could actually extrapolate that up to everything. We're not going to do anything drastic. We're not going to change anything in government swiftly. We're going to do it incrementally. It takes time. Government takes time. Isn't that what Mitch McConnell says, about his lack of legislative accomplishments in the Trump administration? It's like, well, people just don't know. They don't know how slow things go, or they're expecting a rapid pace. And they just haven't been here very long, and they don't know how things are. They don't know how things are done here. Legislating takes time. That's my impression of him. That's the way I think he sounds in my head, anyway. But performance-based budgeting is a more recent approach, which diverges from older budgeting techniques by concentrating on results as opposed to merely requests by agencies. Meaning an agency gets to ask what they want for. The legislators should be like, what'd you get last year? Do we have any results? Can we see anything tangible? What you did with that money? Do you really need more of it? In essence, a complete performance-based budgeting system links the amount of appropriations received by state agencies to their success in achieving predetermined goals. Now, I don't know why the government would be afraid of predetermined goals, because the tax force has a predetermined goal, which is to try to figure out how to get the government more money, but call it a tax cut. This piece goes on. This process requires the state legislator and related agencies to identify specific, quantifiable goals or objectives to be achieved. Budget dollars are then allocated to agencies based upon the required resources to attain such goals in what is formulated as a strategic plan. Performance-based budgeting promotes legislators to rethink policies of the past and provide agencies the flexibility to make challenging decisions that are not easily reached under traditional budgeting systems. Benefits of this system include unification of government direction, increased information to public officials and constituents of agency performance, and more effective budget decision process. Now, that's good, too. I mean, over time, studies show that successful use of performance-based budgeting can positively impact long-term fiscal health of states. Problems with the use of performance-based budgeting consist of subjectivity in what goals are important, the vagueness in developing goals, what measures are to be used in evaluation, lack of direction as to dealing with ineffective agencies, and the costs of tracking and overseeing performance data of agencies. Now, all of that, all of the potential problems with performance-based budgeting can be solved with competent, limited government legislators that recognize that they are in charge of other people's money, not the government's, and especially not theirs. If you just had that philosophy change, you would have... You just got to make those agency heads actually scared to lie to you. I think it should be a crime to lie to a state legislature if you're a bureaucrat, but they do it all the time. I think they should be worried about whether or not they meet their goals because they're not going to get the funding that they need for next year if they don't meet predetermined goals. It's the truth. Arkansas's budgeting process focuses primarily on requests made by state agencies right now and does not currently follow a result-oriented system. Although budgets are reviewed by the legislature, budgeting decisions do not require strategic plans from the agency. So they don't even have to have a strategic plan to get their money when they come before our representatives, nor do they involve assessments of how well agencies achieved defined performance measures the last time. While it is difficult to ascertain which states precisely follow comprehensive performance-based budgeting systems, because you can Google that. You can Google performance-based budgeting, and you can find other... It's got to be done right, just like anything. Sources affirm that most states apply the system in some capacity. According to the Murphy Commission report, 14 states incorporated performance-based budgeting into operations, and over 20 other states were considering using the system. In contrast, a study done around the same time by researchers at Georgia State University found that 47 states have some form of performance-based budgeting methods in effect. Of this number, 31 states passed legislation requiring performance-based budgeting use, and 16 states use performance-based budgeting through non-legislative initiatives in place. Provided below is a chart organized by these researchers showing which of the states have implemented some form of performance-based budgeting, through which bills, and in what year. Arkansas is one of the 3 states that does not have any form of centralized performance-based budgeting initiatives, according to their study. We should wear that as a wreath of shame. A more recent study conducted in 2012 revealed that 40 states have performance-based budgeting legislation passed into law. Furthermore, the researchers recommended implementation to the states which do not use performance-based budgeting, including Arkansas, because of the positive impact the system has on state liquidity, expenditures per capita, and long-term financial liability ratios. Maybe we could take away a dollar slash down there in the left-hand corner of the screen if we had just, a little bit performance-based, but I don't know. Maybe you wouldn't need so much of the money you're trying to take from us all the time. That's all. Actually, I need to look down here. Am I looking at him now? It's like a weatherman in a green screen. Anyway, sorry. The success of these states prompted the federal government to adopt similar measures into the budgeting process for federal agencies. The Government Performance and Results Act of 1993 requires federal agencies to create a 5-year strategic plan of performance goals. These plans specify exactly how the agencies are to achieve measurable performance goals. Agencies then must report quantifiable results to the Office of Management and Budget along with explanations if goals are not met. The Office of Management and Budget is in charge of developing and conveying an overall federal performance report to Congress. Texas is recognized as one of the leading users of performance-based budgeting, enacting the system after bills passed in 91 and 93 provided for tying agency budgets to performance goals. Agencies are required to create performance goals and strategy for achieving the goals. A legislative budget board is in charge of monitoring the performance of state agencies in achieving strategic goals and conveying metrics of performance to the legislature. The legislature uses the reports on agency performance when deciding upon the next year's budget. Requisite to the success of performance-based budgeting is an accurate, transparent accounting system that will provide legislators and budget oversight committees with information to assess the proper costs associated with state agencies' activities. For this reason, as discussed elsewhere, Conduit for Commerce recommends the implementation of activity-based accounting systems across all state agencies to accurately report the true expenditures of government activity. Activities-based accounting, ABC accounting, that is a topic for another time. But if you'll notice in this last paragraph, and what we were just reporting on, the tax force met today, and there was, from what I understand, there was a lot of questions asked of the consultants that they simply didn't have the information for, which is maddening, considering they got this contract for $300,000, and they've had time, and they don't have the information. Now, maybe they will, but you got to understand something. It's November 7th. The committee, it's in the statute, this tax force is due out with a preliminary recommendation this year, by the end of this year. So, I mean, you'd think they'd have the data by now. I mean, we're getting close here. We're getting down to crunch time. So that's interesting. But if you read here, transparent accounting system. So, requisite to the success of performance-based budgeting is an accurate, transparent accounting system that will provide legislators and budget oversight committees with information to assess the proper costs associated with state agency activities. You got to know that. I mean, if we're really, and think of the waste. Gosh, can you imagine the waste? Can you imagine all these other states are doing performance-based budgeting and others are doing activities-based costing where you actually can get the true cost of what it takes to run run their bureaucracy? Can you imagine the fact that we don't have that in Arkansas? The amount of fraud. I'm sorry, not fraud. The amount of abuse and waste. Can you imagine the amount of just complete and total waste in these agencies? It's unbelievable that other states have it, a vast majority of other states have it, and we don't. And this is the reform. Look, everybody knows generally that the government doesn't have our best interests at heart. The outcomes when it comes to the taxpayer are that we're not really their customers because we're going to go to jail if we don't pay them what we owe them. And so it's already set up against us, right? It's already set up against us. It's set up against everybody. I mean, even the welfare programs that are supposed to take care of people are actually, disincentivizing work. You have the welfare cliff. I mean, everything else. I would just say the people of Arkansas generally know this, and so when they voted for Republicans, they did so wanting reform. They might not have known specifically performance-based budgeting, activities-based costing, but they voted for reform, and these are reforms that other states are doing. There's verifiable results about what it accomplishes, but it requires making every one of those bureaucrats down there mad. I mean, furious. And none of them want to do it. The tax force. They're going to force us to revisit the internet sales tax, even though it's been rejected. And you know what they're talking about tomorrow in the tax force meeting? They're talking about excise taxes. They want to know what excise taxes they can have. Specifically, another proposition that failed. You know, like gasoline, you know how they tried to raise our gas taxes? So they're going to talk about that. I predict they're going to try to resurrect everything, every little tiny small victory that conservatives won, which wasn't anything. We didn't gain ground. We just kept them from gaining ground by defeating their big government policies and agenda on the gas tax and internet tax. We lost on tires. We lost on the other tire tax. We lost on the military, as we talked about, the military retirement. We lost on those. Anyway, tell me what you think. Sound off on Facebook Live. Give me a phone call or a text, 870-275-9799. We'll be back in just a moment.
Bob Maloney here from ASA News, The Parrot. Breaking news from the Capitol in Little Rock. Over now to our new on-site reporter, Susan Shenanigans. Susan?
Thanks, Bob. The governor has just announced that a blue ribbon task force is to be formed.
Today, I'm asking your support for a blue ribbon legislative task force to be created and directed to recommend further reform.
Now we go live to the chamber to listen in for more information on the task force.
I hereby call this session into order. First on the agenda for today is the formation of the Blue Ribbon Task Force. Is there anyone who would like to give their thoughts on the task force?
Yes, as someone who's deeply conservative, why is the governor choosing the color blue for this task force? Sounds like he's really a Democrat loyalist. Why not a red ribbon to prove he's a true conservative?
Well, I represent Walmart, and we agree with the color of the task force ribbon. The color blue is best consistent with the Walmart brand.
I object to this choice. Blue is the wrong color ribbon for this task force.
Well, who are you?
I am Mr. P.C. Wrights, and I represent Target, and we want the ribbon to be red, not blue.
Hold it right there. This seems like a tough decision. Why not ask the governor to call a special session at a later date for an important decision as this?
I think this is something worth talking about. I motion that we decide the color of the ribbon today.
I second it. Fine. We can decide it now. Does anyone have any other suggestions for the color of the ribbon?
I think the color should be white.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Hold on. Definitely not white.
I agree with Mr. P.C. Wrights. Maybe we should choose green for the farmers.
You like the color green because you are a farmer. I think it should be purple, so we can display how Arkansas is an extremely moderate state.
Why are we even discussing this? Shouldn't we be talking about tax reform instead of wasting time with this?
Well, the people have spoken. They believe this is worth talking about, so we are deciding this now.
Excuse me, sir, but shouldn't the color of the ribbon be rainbow to include all types of people?
Please, silence your phones.
I just received a call from Walmart HQ, and they agree with, what was your name again? My name is Fabulous. They agree with Fabulous that the color should be rainbow.
Target concurs with the decision of it being rainbow-colored ribbon.
Is there a motion to make the ribbon rainbow-colored?
I motion to make the color rainbow.
I second the motion. The motion carries because I said so.
The committee will now vote and not be on record to keep the people in the dark. Back to you, Bob.
Thank you, Susan. And thank you for listening to ASA News, The Parrot. Next up, there are reports of a gorilla on top of the Capitol Dome demanding massive sums of taxpayer cash. His name? Medicaid expansion.
PHP Parody.
All right, folks, here we are. Yeah, somebody on our Facebook, Mark on Facebook, says that the Asa bobblehead would make a good T-shirt. That'd be interesting. I mean, certainly, yeah, or make an Asa bobblehead. I don't know. I think, obviously, I was considering that, the whole T-shirt idea, because it would just be infuriating to the left. I mean, if you had the Asa, caricature, and then I don't know, something about a big spender on it, I think that could be I think it could be pretty funny. I don't know. What about you? 870-275-9799. That's 870-275-9799. Have you been following anything, Joe? I mean, just curious. Have you been following anything in Spain? Okay, so you don't know about, there's just a lot of, I don't know. I mean, you've got one area of Spain trying to secede. You have the You didn't know this? It's a big deal. I mean, it really is. You can't help but, anytime countries, if you're an American especially, anytime countries go through something like this, you can't help but, liken it back to, our Civil War here. You've got, the closest thing would be, Brexit. But that was a peaceful thing. I mean, the Spanish government essentially, we're going to arrest these people who are, Catalan supporters. We're going to arrest them. I mean, and you have, it's just fascinating stuff. We had reports out today that you've got the government of Germany preparing for the European Union collapse within the next 20 to 40 years, and so they've got military plans. I don't know what for, but they have them. So listen to this. This is a headline from a Pew Research that there was dissatisfaction was widespread in Spain even before the Catalan secession vote. Okay? Catalonia's recent secession attempts come at a difficult time for Spain. Now, why is Spain throwing a fit about Catalonia? Why are they throwing a fit on this? It's because that's where all the money is, folks. And they're sick and tired of the way their government is taking so much money from them and spending it in ways, you know what I'm saying? Like they're the back. You talk about an Atlas Shrugged scenario. Catalonia shrugging here is very bad for Spain, and that's what it is. That's the whole. If you take that concept, the economic freedom concept, it's a prerequisite for so much of your other freedoms. That was the whole point behind the Brexit movement. Britain wanted out because they had all this money because they were a wealthy country that was going to the European Union, and then it was being kind of, given back to them, but with strings attached, saying you got to, buy this or you got to build this or you got to spend it in this way. Very much like our federal government treats the subjugated states of America. And yeah, I feel more free now that Donald Trump's in office. There's no question that, you just, because Hillary's not, is really, but when it comes to this tax plan that you look at, the Congress is trying to pass or whatever, I look at it and I see some good things. I look at it, though, and I also see, gosh, these guys are just like the folks down in Little Rock. They don't want a dime. They don't want a dime less from you. And if they have their way, they'll figure out a way to get more. But they don't want a dime less from you coming into the government. The only way to shrink government by force, and when I say force, I don't mean actual force, but maybe think of more of a automation, is to cut off the money going to it. So when they want a new internet sales tax, we say, no, we're not going to give you another tributary to suck up money from us because you'll use it to grow. The only way to stop them from growing is to, or one of the only ways, but this is a big way, is to cut off their funds. You've got to stop giving them money, and we got to do that by saying the government is going to spend less and then have a tax cut. But we're going to spend less, cut spending, and then have a tax cut. Anyway, it's interesting. The rules of economics, okay, are borderless. And eventually, it all comes, the chickens come home to roost from our whiteboard last week. Catalonia, what they're doing is really, if we get right down to it, it's about economics. It really, truly is. So was the Brexit thing. So was the election of President Donald Trump, where you have blue-collar people and working people saying we've had enough of the swamp in D.C. There's a reason the national headquarters for the Lamborghini dealership is in Washington, D.C., and not like Beverly Hills. We got one more hour coming your way next. Back in a minute.
Rush, Glenn, Sean, and Paul. This is Jonesboro's 1013 FM News Talk, KBTM.
Welcome those of you watching at paulharrell.com, Facebook Live, or our YouTube page, The Paul Harrell Program. This is the set where we shoot our Wednesday weekly videos for our Patreon subscribers. And if you want to get on board and get extra Paul Harrell Program content because you want to partner with us, you believe the show has value, you want to help us keep the show on the air, you want to help us grow the show, you want to help us make videos like this one even better, then you need to seriously think about subscribing to Patreon. It's patreon.com/thephp. That's patreon.com/thephp. Get extra content today, partner with us, and help build the Liberty Machine. We're asking you to partner with us for as little as $5 a month. Now, you can go up from there. You can go to $10 a month and get extra features, or $25 a month and become a Conduit Media Insider. But for $5 a month, you can really help us out. You can get extra content. You can see what we talk about on sets like this. And I promise you, you won't be disappointed. Thanks for watching. Back in a moment.
Paul Harrell, weekdays from 4 to 6. Learn more at paulharrell.com.
Bringing in an increase in taxes and not a decrease. Now, we will decrease the burden on some, but it's like, hey, if you decrease the amount I have to pay in income taxes, but you increase the amount I have to pay in sales tax when I go fill up my vehicle or whatever or any other kind, is it really a cut? No, I'm still paying more money to the government.
So you think that they're going to basically try to protect the government's not going to wind up getting less money out of this deal for sure. You think they're actually going to wind up getting more money, and what? I mean, but it's not going to be a true tax cut. They're not going to quit spending and then give that money back to the people.
Absolutely not. Here's the situation that the state of Arkansas is in. We cannot afford any more tax cuts. With what we're spending right now, we cannot afford another tax cut. I mean, when you're running a $5 billion machine down there, and you want to jump up and down and sing hallelujah and all this stuff and click your heels in the air and just celebrate the fact that we finished up a fiscal year with $15 million in surplus. Wow. I mean, that's ridiculous. And that was after we had to cut the budget.
Yeah, after he had to cut.
Because we weren't meeting, right, after we weren't meeting projections and all this kind of stuff. So, the sad reality is there's no way we can afford a real tax cut. We can't afford less revenue until we start cutting some of our expenditures. I mean, if you're spending $100 a week on something, you need to be generating $100 a week.
Well, Josh, why don't they want to cut spending, or why? I guess in their minds, the establishment leadership, it's like it's not even possible to cut spending. Why do you think that is? What are some of the reasons?
I wish I knew, other than I go back to, of course, with the big elephant in the room is always, and until it goes away, which I don't know if it will or not, but it's going to be the Medicaid expansion dollars. And we are, we've since proven that we would have been cheaper it would have been cheaper for us as a state to have just expanded traditional Medicaid services and not been buying private insurance. But yet we're still going to continue to do that. And, once you involve companies who are making hundreds of millions of dollars of profit each year, they like to donate to politicians, and they like to, offer jobs and do this other all this other stuff. And that makes it hard to, to affect change in the legislature, because we have too many people who are afraid of not getting those campaign contributions, I guess, or other stuff. I mean, the list goes on.
I don't want to.
We'll.
I got another question here. We're talking with State Representative Josh Miller, District 66. That includes Heber Springs. Are you calling from Heber? Is that where you're calling from?
Well, actually, I'm calling from the hilltop right above my farm, where I'm about to go deer hunt.
Oh, nice. Okay, all right.
So I'm in southern Stone County right now.
Okay, all right, southern Stone County. All right. So I don't want to, Here's my issue. I just want your honest reaction to this. Among the leadership that are Republicans, that I don't even know if they're claiming to be conservatives anymore, Josh. That's kind of why this is a tough question. But there's never a loss of credibility. And part of that is because we have a mainstream media that leaves a lot of the people in the dark. But when you look at Senator Jim Hendren, for example, who used his past credentials to say, follow me, I'll end Medicaid expansion. Still no one's called and told me that it's ended yet. We still have it. He's on record saying it was going to end it. That wasn't a true statement. And we were going to do real tax reform this last session. The governor said no. Hendren said no. And Hendren said, follow me. I'll create another task force, and we'll get real tax reform. We now find out
the maintenance of a free society is a very difficult and complicated thing, and it requires a self-denying ordinance of the most extreme kind. It requires a willingness to put up with temporary evils on the basis of the subtle and sophisticated understanding that if you step in to do something about them, you not only may make them worse, but you will spread your tentacles and get bad results elsewhere.
I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers. We lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
You're listening to the Paul Harrell Program, brought to you by Conduit Media Group.
Hey, folks, welcome to the program. It is hour number 2. My name is Paul. Thank you guys so much for being with us. I have a little bit of a different segment I'm starting this second hour off with, but it's actually my treat. The Houston Astros, and I mentioned this briefly yesterday, the Houston Astros, of course, have won the World Series. But there's a guy who's a part of the organization that's one of my best friends. We went to college together. His name is Kyle Hampshire. We have Kyle on the line. Kyle, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So Kyle is the senior manager of entertainment for the Houston Astros. And this is fantastic because, you are one of your duties is that you're the mascot down there. You are the mascot orbit for the Houston Astros. And so you're also from the state of Arkansas. This program is heard across the state of Arkansas. You are, extremely successful. And I just wonder if you could share with us a little bit about what it was like being a part of a world champion organization.
Oh, my goodness. It is absolutely unbelievable. I've really been trying to figure out the best way to put into words really just kind of what this, not just this past week, but really, this past month, this past year, this past season, ultimately just this point in my career, really what it's meant. I've been just inundated with text messages and calls and Facebook posts and all that kind of stuff. And I posted some things here and there, but I just have yet to sit down and really put into words ultimately what it feels like. But even, what's kind of funny is even just walking around the office today, it's been almost a full calendar week since we actually won the World Series. And it's still kind of business as usual with the exception of, there's a championship here. Someone told me earlier this morning, I couldn't help but laugh. They said, you look a little bit different today. I said, really, what do you mean? They said, you look like a champion. And so, there's definitely just an aura of pride, of victory. There's definitely a different feel, not just in the office, really, but in this city and in this community. And I would ultimately say maybe in the state, because I didn't realize this until last week, that this is the first time the state of Texas has actually won a World Series. Not just the Astros, but the state of Texas.
Wow. Yeah, that certainly is, even more history that you've been a part of. So Kyle, tell us tell the audience a little bit about, where you came from. A lot of people probably don't realize how hard it can be to break in, to being a mascot for some of these professional teams. Now, I know you started, in Arkansas when you were in high school. Talk about that. And then you went to Arkansas State. And tell us a little bit about how it was a weird time at Arkansas State. You had the NCAA saying you can no longer use the Indian mascot. The imagery is what they were deeming it offensive. And so A-State had to kind of go with a non-conventional character. So tell us a little bit about your journey.
Sure. So I was born and raised in Arkansas. I grew up in the same house in Jacksonville for 22 years of my life, up until I left home and entered the workforce. I began in high school, started my senior year. I went to, at the time, was North Pulaski High School. As recently as about a year or two ago, Jacksonville created its own school district, and so that school, as it were, is no more. It's now just all Jacksonville High School. So at the time, it was North Pulaski. I was a Falcon. And ironically enough, the guy who got me into mascotting many, many years ago, the suit that I wore was the same one that he had. So it was over 8 years old, really quite literally on its last leg. And so I started literally from the bottom. Started my senior year in high school. From there, I took a job with the Arkansas Twisters, who were an arena football team back in the day. I worked with them for 5 years during the summer. So I started my senior year in high school and finished with them my senior year in college, and also did the Arkansas Travelers baseball team for one summer after my senior year of high school, and then sporadically that next summer. But specifically, the story that I'm sure that most people are particularly interested in is ultimately how I came to be the character at Arkansas State. So at the time, as you had mentioned, it was a really interesting transition time for ASU. There was all of this talk about, are we going to change the mascot? Are we getting a new mascot? What's going on? And truthfully, hindsight being what it was, I think you'd agree, it was very preliminary talk, because the mascot didn't even get officially changed until about 5 or 6 years later from that time. But I had enrolled at Arkansas State, had a full ride academic scholarship, and so that's ultimately what originally led to that decision. And originally my plan was just to go the first 2 years, get my basics out of the way, and then transfer to a school that had a mascot so I could continue my career. As fate would have it, I heard through the grapevine, I believe it was my father that actually called me and told me that ASU had actually come up with a mascot. And I was like, oh, really? No way. And so I got on the internet and looked it up, saw the character, was quite an interesting design.
It was, wasn't it? For those of you that don't know, the design he's talking about, they named him Red, and he kind of looked like, kind of a Gumby-like character. He was compared to
Gumby, Doug Funny, the Slim Jim guy. I mean, he was bright red, little bitty eyes, a big old nose, 7-inch tall dreadlocks on his head. Just a really interesting looking character. And so, but I connected with the school and asked if they had a performer, and they hadn't had a performer yet. And as a matter of fact, they were hosting an event in Little Rock that weekend for the athletic department, and asked if that could, if I could attend and that be my tryout. And so I was like, yeah, sure. So literally it was just a glad handing event with the athletic director and different dignitaries and stuff like that. And so I just worked in the room for about an hour, and that's how I got the gig. And so
wow.
I was the original performer for Red at Arkansas State University. And, I was excited. I was jazzed. I was fresh out of high school, going to college. And I finally get to be an official college mascot. I don't have to worry about transferring and all that kind of stuff, and I was so excited. And literally the night before the first football game, I was at a friend's house who was there. I believe she was a junior, and I was like, oh man, I'm so excited about the football game. It's going to be awesome. But yeah, well, a lot of people aren't really excited about this character. And I was like, really? What? Why? And, there was still, hey, we're Arkansas State. We're the Indian family. That's our mascot. Mm-hmm. And to their credit, I know that the athletic department was pretty sensitive to that, even going so far as to label Red a spirit character as opposed to an actual mascot. But nonetheless, the welcome that I received that first football game, I don't even know if you can classify it as a welcome.
So let me give a testimony here. Okay, we're talking full disclosure. My friend Kyle Hampshire, he's now the senior manager of entertainment for the Houston Astros. They just won a World Series. So, I mean, I was in college with you at the time, and I was born and raised in Jonesboro. And when the NCAA stepped in and the university did what they did, people were furious. And so to see some Gumby-looking character come out was, just like you said, it was not a warm reaction. It was not a warm welcome. However, okay, you got to understand something, folks. This is how talented the man that you're listening, not me, but Kyle, the man that's on the program now, this is how talented he is, because by the end of the 4 years, before they switched officially to the Red Wolves, he made this character his own. I mean, it was amazing. The physical comedy, the minutia of this movement or that movement that can communicate like so many vast ideas to an entire stadium of people. So I just want everybody to know that was what was so amazing about it. You taking this character that nobody liked and you made it into something great because you were the person behind the costume.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say one of my proudest moments, truthfully, up until about last week, was what you mentioned, the beginning and the end of that 4 years, because I started my very first football game going into a stadium greeted by tens of thousands of boos and jeers and everything else. And my very last basketball game, they honored me center court, presented me with a game ball, thanked me for my service, as it were, and I left the court with a standing ovation.
Yeah.
And so that was one of the really great apex moments of my career.
So how did that? Because you get out of school, you go work for the Carolina Panthers hockey team down in Fort Lauderdale. That must have been a pretty
Florida Panthers.
Oh, I'm sorry. What did I say?
You said Carolina.
I'm sorry.
It's a couple borders north.
Yeah. Sorry. The Florida Panthers hockey team. You go work for them. But talk a little bit about that, because you eventually get a call from the Houston Astros, and it was a similar situation where it was a character that people weren't really familiar with.
Sure, yeah. So I worked in hockey for 5 years. That was the first job I took right out of college. Luckily, I was able to nab a position so quickly because, as you had mentioned previously, this really is a very competitive industry. You have to realize that there's literally around approximately 100 jobs that even exist in this profession, and that profession being a quote-unquote professional mascot with each team. And in a very good year, there might be 4, maybe 5, possibly half a dozen openings in a year. So I was able to nab that position with the Florida Panthers. I had about 6 different openings that year that I participated in, and these were the ones that gave me an offer. So I worked for them for 5 years. Due to the NHL work stoppage in 2012, I was unfortunately on the not so good end of that, and found myself looking for work about this time 5 years ago. And truthfully, man, I would say it was by divine intervention. My wife and I are just walking along in the park one day, and I get a call, and it's a Houston number, and I don't really recognize it. So I pick it up, and lo and behold, it's the president and CEO of the Houston Astros wanting to talk to see if I might be interested in coming to work for them. And at the time, unbeknownst to me, the team was in a complete rebuild. They had 100 lost seasons after 100 lost seasons. They were rebuilding everything from the ground up, not just the team, but also the brand. So what came with that is they got a new logo, got a new brand, they had a new owner. Our owner, Jim Crane, was fresh off his first year with the team, and so they were really starting to stir things up. And so they unveiled, I wouldn't say a new logo, but in reality it was kind of an old logo. They went back to their roots. They went back to the orange H star that had graced the team much during the kind of their heyday, and along with that, they brought back an old mascot character, which was Orbit. So Orbit was with the team all throughout the 90s, from 1990 all the way to 1999. And when the team moved from the Astrodome to where we are now at Minute Maid Park, they had a different mascot, different logo, different team. And so basically they kind of went back to the glory days of what the team was like. And so they called me to see if I would be interested in helping to build that program, and said, hey, are you up for the challenge? I was like, well, I've introduced the character before, and if I can do that one, I can most certainly do this one. And so the great thing about the situation that I was put in here in Houston was that everybody already loved Orbit. It was very nostalgic for a lot of people to bring that character back, because many of them, I get people come up to me all the time like, man, I remember you from when I was a kid. And, these people are 30-something, 40 years old. They're way older than I am. And, but they're talking to the characters. And so it was much, much easier to create success with that character simply because it was already in the heart of the city. But on top of that, too, the Astros are just a fantastic organization that have been really, really great about providing me the resources that I need to be successful, and really providing the team and everybody the resources they need to be successful, which is what I feel led to our World Series championship.
You had more of a warm welcome. You're almost over-prepared. Your experience at Arkansas State and what you did there actually over-prepared you for what you did down in Houston. I think that's great.
Yeah.
We have a few photos here because I can't talk. I mean, you're in the Houston area. We can't talk about. I can't interview without going over what happened with the flooding in Houston. And we've got some signs here where people saying I survived Hurricane Harvey, and then they got it crossed out, and then they say I survived Game 5. We have some people saying from underwater to on top of the world. Kyle, can you just talk a little bit about what has this done for the city of Houston in light of all of that damage and destruction?
You asked me that question, and honestly, I get chills just thinking about it, because 2 months ago, I mean, this city was just in a literal crisis. Luckily, my family and I were in a place that we managed to stay high and dry, but just what was going on around us, we were just glued to the TV. It started, Hurricane Harvey was a very slow hurricane, and unfortunately, we weren't even affected by the winds. It was the water that really did damage to Houston. I can't even remember the number. It was some trillion gallons of water were dumped on Houston, but this city was literally underwater. We had a series planned at home for that weekend that week that we were supposed to return, and unfortunately we weren't able to play those games. And so we had actually relocated to Tropicana Field in Tampa, where the Tampa Bay Rays play. When we finally were able to come back, the stadium was maybe about a quarter full, and it was a weekend game against the New York Mets. And so just the city was just devastated, and that's putting it mildly. It was unbelievable. And I think that everybody knew that this team wanted to play for this city in an effort to give them hope. And so we developed the Houston Strong mantra, and they wore those patches on their jerseys. And that's really ultimately what ended up happening, is that people had something to put their hope in, because truthfully, I mean, there's still so much to be done in the aftermath of this hurricane in terms of recovery efforts and all that kind of stuff. So it was really kind of great. Our president, Reed Ryan, says that we're in the business of bringing joy to people's lives. And what I saw when I participated in the parade, in the victory parade last Friday, was so much happiness. I've never seen so much happiness in my entire life. That is when the moment became real to me. And it just hit me like a ton of bricks, just the emotion that I saw. So many people, hundreds of thousands of people turned up for this parade. It was between 750,000 and 1 million people in the city of Houston. And every single one of them was so happy. And just to see that many people go from just the utter devastation that this city saw 2 months ago to being where we are now, it was just unbelievable.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, I don't have this photo, I think, in the rotation right now, but I saw one where a guy's clearly, watching the World Series, celebrating, but he's in like a completely gutted house, no carpet, no sheetrock on the walls and everything else, and you just think, wow, how many other people were like that? How many other people were sitting there, with nothing, but they're rooting, for the Astros? It's an amazing story.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. And on top of that, too, one thing that I told my staff, I have a number of people that I work with and that work under me during the game is, I told them really the magnitude and ultimately the power that they have during these postseason games, particularly in the last games that we hosted at home, which were games 4 and 5. I said, you realize the power that you have over the people out there. Keep in mind, some people are still affected by Hurricane Harvey. Some people may have gotten these tickets as a donation to, get a break from just the devastation that they're still facing. And when you work in entertainment, unfortunately, you can't control what happens on the field, but you can control whether or not somebody has a good time. And that's what I tried to tell my staff, is that you have the power in your hands, literally, to get the fans engaged and entertained and happy and excited. And I strongly believe there is a such thing as home field advantage. And whenever that becomes a reality, whenever you are able to get the fans excited and they get excited about the game, I strongly believe that it does have an effect on the players. And then it has an effect on their performance. And we all saw what happened in Game 5.
Yeah.
Going into extra innings, just hitting it. I said that Game 2 was probably the most exciting World Series game that I had ever seen. That was true up until Game 5. And being right there in the heart of it was something that I'll never forget.
We're talking with my good friend Kyle Hampshire. He is the senior manager of entertainment for the Houston Astros, and we're about out of time, Kyle. But I got to ask you a question. Some of your most popular videos as the character Orbit are the ones where the security guards. You start messing with the security guards that keep people off the field, and then the security guard, one in particular, they start breakdancing. And so I've got to know, are these real security guards that are also amazing dancers? Because some of them look like they are bouncers, that they are security. What are your thoughts?
Well, it's funny you say that, Paul, because it looks like I'm right about out of time, too. So it's looking like I'm not going to be able to answer that question for you today.
All righty. Kyle Hampshire, I appreciate it, sir. Give my best to your family. Congratulations on being a member of a world champion organization, sir. I appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate the time.
All righty. Folks, we got to take a break. Back in just a moment.
Protecting your business means protecting your data. But is your business really prepared to handle the growing threat of things like cybercriminals and ransomware? At iTex, they're committed to deploying the best security solutions to protect your business and your bottom line. Security threats are constantly evolving. So are security needs. Be proactive now and equip your business with the best cybersecurity available with iTex. Call them today for a free consultation at 870-336-9778. That's 870-336-9778 or itexusa.com.
The Paul Harrell Program.
All right. I want to thank my great friend Kyle Hampshire for coming on the program down in Houston there. I especially want to thank him for not telling any stories about me, because we did go to college together. We were great friends, and so I actually was relieved. Just trust me. Of course, anyway. So we're up against a hard break here in about 15 seconds. When we come back, I do want to get into, we got some more stuff to get into, interesting stuff about who's getting appointed to what board. Now, when you think of these licensing boards, okay, you have, cosmetology. We have a parody on that. You have different types of medical licensing boards. You have dentistry, you have optometry, you have, all these other type. So I'm going to talk about dentistry here in a minute, because Asa Hutchinson has made an appointment. This story has fallen through the cracks here, but he's made an appointment. When you upset And this has happened with the plant board. This has happened with the farmers. This has happened with other professional. Asa is no longer accepting the recommendations of the boards of who they want on their governing bodies. Instead, he's going with people that are more, well, we assume are just, it's rocking the boat. It's rocking the boat. Those how many dentists are in Arkansas? We need to find out how many voters are that. How many voters are dentists in the state of Arkansas? Let's talk about that when we come back. You're listening to the Paul Harrell program. Back in a minute.
Welcome those of you watching at paulharrell.com, Facebook Live, or our YouTube page, The Paul Harrell Program. This is the set where we shoot our Wednesday weekly videos for our Patreon subscribers. And if you want to get on board and get extra Paul Harrell Program content because you want to partner with us, you believe the show has value, you want to help us keep the show on the air, you want to help us grow the show, you want to help us make videos like this one even better, then you need to seriously think about subscribing to Patreon. It's patreon.com/thephp. That's patreon.com/thephp. Get extra content today, partner with us, and help build the Liberty Machine. We're asking you to partner with us for as little as $5 a month. Now, you can go up from there. You can go to $10 a month and get extra features, or $25 a month and become a Conduit Media Insider. But for $5 a month, you can really help us out. You can get extra content. You can see what we talk about on sets like this. And I promise you, you won't be disappointed. Thanks for watching. Back in a moment.
Paul Harrell, weekdays from 4 to 6. Learn more at paulharrell.com.
That's pretty much not going to happen. He's hired a lifelong Democrat to advise a red state, or a supposed red state, how to proceed with lowering taxes. We're the highest tax state around. It costs almost $8,000 per capita to run our government when it costs $5,000 per capita to run Oklahoma or Texas or, all the states around us on average. And, those are some big, that's a big problem. So why do none of these guys, when they fail to deliver actual limited government results, they never lose their credibility, it seems like? What's your response to that?
My response is twofold. Number one, I think that we do live in a red state. There's enough people that have gotten tired of government operating the way it has been in the past, and they have voted overwhelmingly for a change. So I think the direction that you and I are talking about, the direction that you and I would like to see things go, is wildly popular with the working men and women in the state of Arkansas. I have no doubt about that. Our problem is that you touched on it just a second ago. We don't have enough of the mainstream media that is willing to, if nothing else, just say, hey, aren't you flip-flopping on your last position? They don't do that very often. And number two is this is a problem, and I'm not by any means, hey, listen, I'm a regular citizen person, whatever, long before I'm a legislator. So I'm talking to myself in as much as I'm talking to anybody else. But one of the other issues that we've got to have, and I think this is because there's, like I said, there's probably not enough media coverage of the actual facts, but we have a lot more people in the state of Arkansas right now who voted overwhelmingly for change. They voted for candidates all across the state that were going to change things. They voted for Donald Trump. They voted for Asa Hutchinson thinking, hey, you know what? We don't want another 4 to 8 years of the direction Mike Beebe was leading us. And they voted for Asa Hutchinson over Mike Ross. But the vast majority of that population right now is more up in arms about Jeff Long's buyout and the contract with Brett Bielema and the poor state of the Razorback football program.
The Paul Harrell Program.
something to watch here is going to be the Dental Association's next meeting, which is November 17th. If you're just joining us and you didn't hear the tease before we went to break, we're going to talk a little bit about the governor's appointments. It's making some people mad. I don't know how many dentists there are in the state of Arkansas, but I know there's a lot. I know there's enough of them that if they get upset with the governor not, taking their recommendations, and it's also, it's not necessarily, according to what I know, it's not that he's taking a better qualified candidate to, be appointed on the dental board. Let's start here, okay? Max Brantley, he writes this, and I saw this. Let's see here. One second. I'm going to make sure. I'm going to cross-reference. Yeah, on October 23rd, so we're behind the curve on this. On October 23rd, Max Brantley writes this story, headline, Criticism Arises on Hutchinson Appointee to the Dental Board. And in it, he talks about a memo that was released that he can't 100% verify, but apparently the association, okay, the Dental Association recommended a Dr. Laura Harmon of Jonesboro for an open seat on the Arkansas Board Dental Examiners, or the Arkansas Board of Dental Examiners, okay? Instead of that appointment, Governor Asa Hutchinson has named Dr. Richard L. Smith of North Little Rock instead of who the board recommended. So, and this is very interesting. So we're going to ping pong back and forth here. You go to I have a Facebook post in front of me from a dentist, apparently a dentist, who doesn't seem to be very nice about it. I mean, he says this, and this is apparently I think a dentist from Pocahontas on Facebook writes, I just received this message from the Arkansas State Dental Association. And he says this, quote, you can go to the Facebook post if you want. In an unprecedented move in modern times, I think this is the memo that Max Brantley had. In an unprecedented move in modern times, the office of Governor Asa Hutchinson has rejected the recommendation of Arkansas State Dental Association for the Arkansas State Board of Dental Examiners and instead appointed a dentist who has been found in violation of Arkansas law on 3 separate occasions, including overprescribing narcotics. As in years past, the ASDA recommended a dentist who has been vetted at the district and state level for ethical and professional conduct and noted as a person who would serve the citizens of Arkansas over and above their dental colleagues. To this end, the Northeast Dental District and the ASDA proposed Dr. Lauren Harmon of Jonesboro to replace Dr. Bob Carter of Batesville, whose term expired in September of 2017. The post goes on. Instead, the governor's office appointed Dr. Richard Smith of North Little Rock, a non-member of the ASDA and current employee of Monarch Dental. According to records, Dr. Smith has been found by the ASBDE to be in violation of the Practice Act on 3 occasions in early 1990s, the first being overprescribing of narcotics. In light of the national focus on opioid abuse, the governor's office promoted legislation in 2017 to monitor the overprescribing of Class 2 and Class 3 narcotics. The overcharges and penalties enforced against Dr. Smith were for performing dentistry in a professionally incompetent manner and working without a valid license. In all 3 instances, Dr. Smith's dental license was suspended. There have been no further actions by the ASBDE against him, and his license to practice dentistry in Arkansas is active. And then it says that Dr. Smith's appointment to the board is effective immediately. Now, I will tell you, I've talked to dentists about this, and they are furious about this, and they have no idea why Asa Hutchinson would do this. And I'm just telling you, everybody, it's weird. I actually started counting all of the dentists that I know, and they're quite numerous. It's actually amazing. But so I've talked to some of these guys. I've talked to 2 of them now, and I've got like 2 or 3 more I need to talk to as well. But everybody's aware of what's going on here, and they just don't get it. They don't understand why Governor Asa Hutchinson would do this. Now, this isn't the first time that he has attempted this. He's not he hasn't followed the recommendations of other medical boards as well. Now, you know me. I'm not Mr. Licensure. I'm not Mr. I believe these. I mean, I've got a serious problem with some of these licensing boards. I have a big problem with them, I think. But when it comes to, they make a point to make sure the people on the boards, as protectionist as they can be, are in fact, I guess the professions want to know. They want to make sure that this person is something that we all trust. And so if they're, at the very least, if you got a vast majority of people saying, what are you doing with this appointment? It's not the first time this has happened. It also happened if you go back and you look at who, if you go talk to any farmer, they'll tell you that what's been going on with the plant board, the governor made a move against the plant board legislatively last session, and that was defeated narrowly. In large part thanks to this program, by the way, because our video that we did on it and the legislation that was, coming down the pike, we interviewed Stuttgart farmer Wendell Stratton, and that video went absolutely viral, and it was shared among the, farmers. And, anyway, so we stopped that. But I will just tell you that this is interesting from an electoral perspective to me, and I want to dive further into it. I'm going to get more information. I may be interviewing a couple of dentists or two on the program, but from an electoral standpoint, if this is happening the way I think it's happening, and we have the poll numbers from last week where Asa Hutchinson has lost 17 points. He's lost 17 points, ladies and gentlemen, in, I guess, since April among Republicans. He's down 17 points. I know for a fact that our listenership and our viewership has gone up during that time. I know we're part of it. But how many of these boards who are not getting their recommendations that they want as the professional class? Asa's not a dentist. Asa's not a dentist. How many of these big interest groups are going to vote against him because of what he's doing? How many of these big interest groups are saying, when they're called and they get asked the question, in the polling, I don't approve of his job. I don't approve of his job at all. Folks, there's a ton of farmers in this state. We could park there for an entire hour. If the agricultural community outside of Monsanto is upset with Asa Hutchinson, he's got problems in this state, especially among farmers that identify as a Republican. If you've got, if you add, and you've got the dental board. If you start adding other boards, maybe it could get fuzzy for him real quick, and I think he knows that. And if you combine that, this is a grim picture. If you combine that with the county committees, the Republican county committees starting to organize against him, which they have been, it's now becoming clear. I guess what I'm saying is this. We have yet another portion of evidence to add to the body of evidence as to why Asa is now reacting, and he is defending himself. He's defending himself by sending Doug Smith, and we have the email of Doug Smith bullying Mississippi County. By the way, Mississippi County's dinner, I can't remember. Is Mississippi County's dinner a Reagan Day or a Lincoln Day? Somebody on Facebook help me out. Mississippi County Republican Party. I get them confused. They do Reagan Day dinners and then they do Lincoln Day dinners, and I can't keep up with them. I'm going to be perfectly honest. Mississippi County's dinner is this Saturday. Jan Morgan will speak. Jan Morgan will be there this Saturday in Mississippi County. It's going to be a good time. It's at the Holiday Inn. And, if you haven't, certainly, I don't know if the tables are sold out. I have no idea, but I would try to make it, especially if you're anywhere in Northeast Arkansas. And you want to know what the fuss is about. Good grief! If you've been listening to this show, you should be like, why does the governor not want Jan Morgan to speak at these county events? Why use that? Well, Lincoln. It is a Lincoln Day dinner. Ha 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 ha. A Lincoln Day dinner. It's just, hey, it's self-governance at its local level. They can decide. They can call the dinner whatever they want. Hey, remember when the Democrats they changed their Jefferson Day dinners? Remember that? The Democrat Party of Arkansas no longer have their Jefferson Day dinners because Thomas Jefferson owned slaves. And by doing that, of course, I think they named it after Clinton's or something. I'm serious. Just off the top of my head, I think they renamed their dinners. Yeah. Which, I'm sorry, I do want to get behind that idea to get rid of the airport. It's called the Bill and Hillary Clinton Airport down Lower. I mean, I really want to get rid of that. I do. I mean, I know it doesn't really do anything. But, right? I mean, come on. Why don't we want that on there? That just doesn't make any sense. It's about legacy, I mean, nobody cares that, I'm just saying, you got to wait a lot longer. You got to wait a long time before you name something after somebody in politics. So everybody kind of is like, yeah, okay, yeah, he seems like a nice guy. And I guess maybe the Clintons thought, no, we'll always be popular in Arkansas. And then somebody named Barack Obama was elected, and people started saying, hey, I don't think Democrats represent me anymore. Then when that happened, yeah, now all of a sudden they attempted to change the name of the last session down at the Marble Palace. And I didn't pay any attention to it because I thought it was, at the time, honestly, they were trying to raise taxes so much, I thought it was stupid. But when you think about it, it does kind of make me mad. And I'm not doing it to, I mean, you know what? Maybe I'm as guilty as the people that are trying to edit history. And I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it because I think it's going to end disagreement, though. See, these people that try to rip down Confederate statues and, we're not going to recognize Thomas Jefferson was a Democrat because he owned slaves anymore. People are still going to have disagreements, not just on race. People are still going to have disagreements on everything because we're human beings. You know what I'm saying? Anyway. Interestingly enough. Okay, where were we? Okay, so the dental board. So analyzing the fact that you have dentists everywhere. That's the way I'm going to say it. We have dentists everywhere who are upset with ASA. Joe, can we get our ASA graphic up there for our viewers that are just? I want it big. I want the life size ASA face. We've got dentists everywhere. They're going to form a coalition of dentists. And they're going to organize, and they're going to say, we don't want Asa Hutchinson to ignore our recommendations of who we think should be on our boards and everything else. There it is. There's the graphic. Here we go. And then you're going to have like a coalition of farmers that are going to say, do you know what Asa did with the plant board? And then you're going to have a coalition of Second Amendment activists who are going to say, do you really know what Asa did and what he really thinks of the Second Amendment? He called it a privilege. But, your Second Amendment privilege. I will protect your Second Amendment privilege. It's not called the Bill of Privileges, Governor. It's not called the Bill of Privileges. I still can't get over the fact that when this cartoon was supposed to be ready, the cartoon that you're seeing, those of you listening to terrestrial radio, you got to go to paulharrell.com or Facebook Live. You just gotta. You have to. But for those of you who, and I want to thank our Patreon subscribers for this one. Those of you who have subscribed on Patreon, you make cartoons like this possible. And I told you, it's going to make the videos better that we do, the Wednesday weeklies that are the exclusive content that we're giving out for subscriptions, $5, $10, $25 a month with extra features and stuff like that. But it also goes to, I've told you, to make the radio program better. So keep that in mind, patreon.com/thephp. That's patreon.com/thephp. I know we got to go to break here in a minute, but I just find, okay, so the coincidence that this was supposed to be ready 2 weeks ago, it wasn't, and then it was delayed again. We had 2 revisions, and now here's our finished product. And it happens to be the day that the tax force meets, where they talk about we got to have more money with an internet sales tax. Now think about that for a second. What a coincidence that I get my ASA big spender tax, ASA big spender tax face here. And it's the day that the tax force starts to meet and talk about we got to have an internet sales tax. And, thank you.
Hey, big spender!
Yeah, that is the theme. I mean, again, can you play that one more time? Play that one more time. It's like Johnny Manziel.
Hey, big spender!
Yeah, so that, if there ever was, I don't. Does the Arkansas governor have a theme song? I don't know it if we do. Like "Hail to the Chief" is what I mean. You know, "Hail to the Chief," for the President of the United States. Right, comes in the room. Hail. All right, so I don't know. Does the governor have one of those? If he doesn't, we need to have the vote so we get to decide. You know how senior classes in high school, they get to pick what your class song is? Well, we need to be able to do that with every governor. What song the people think best represents this person. And I would pick this song, Big Spender, from the musical Sweet Charity. All right, we got to take a break. Folks, don't go anywhere. We'll be back in just a moment.
Order. In the name of public safety, order. This meeting of the Arkansas State Licensing Board governing state licensing boards is called to order in the name of public safety. What's on the agenda for the day?
We have before us today, per our summons, a representative from the Arkansas State Licensing Board governing cosmetology, cosmetologist, and all things hair care and beauty.
Right. Of course, I remember this. In the name of public safety, ma'am, please state your name for the record, and thank you for appearing before us today.
Yes, my name is Cosmo Glamour Gazette, and I'm here in response to a letter our state board received claiming we're in violation of the Arkansas State Licensing Board governing state licensing boards. In the letter, you claim that our licensing board is in violation of your rules and regulations because we have failed to, quote, pay tribute, end quote, and therefore have not been granted a license by the Arkansas State Licensing Board governing licensing boards to, quote, shake down the Arkansans who have an interest in cosmetology, end quote.
In the name of public safety, order. Yes, Miss Gazette, we sent you that letter because you have not obtained our approval in the form of a license from our board to distribute licenses to the professional class your board strives to protect. In the name of public safety, of course.
Of course.
So, in the name of public safety, and just so we can get this for the record, you do admit and agree with our board, the Arkansas State Licensing Board governing state licensing boards, that you have not obtained a license, thereby revealing your board of cosmetology to be operating outside our rules, regulations, and authority?
Well, sir, I'm not sure our board agrees that we need a license from your board to continue to shake down, to look out for the public safety of Arkansans.
In the name of public safety.
In the name of public safety.
Well, it seems we are at a bit of an impasse if we are not in agreement that your board owes us tribute.
Sir, maybe we could ask and see if there's a bureaucrat in the house.
Oh, yes. Yes, that would shed some light on things. A bureaucrat. Yeah, in the name of public safety, is there a bureaucrat in the house? We need someone to resuscitate and confirm our authority as the Arkansas State Licensing Board governing state licensing boards.
Here.
Ah, yes. Oh, good. Come to the end of the table in the name of public safety and state your name for the record, please.
Yes, I am Despot Ringleader, the head of the bureau governing all state bureaus, and it is my testimony the Arkansas State Licensing Board governing state licensing boards does have the authority to demand tribute in this situation and will provide in exchange a license to say they can continue to operate in the name of public safety.
It's hard to argue when the public safety is put at risk. Very well. We will consider Mrs. Ringleader's testimony as truth, and we will pay tribute in the name of public safety, of course.
In the name of public safety.
In the name of public safety.
He puts the Paul in politics. The Paul Harrell Program, brought to you by Conduit Media Group.
Up here today on the program. Of course, we do have Governor Asa Hutchinson's approval numbers from the news last week in February of 2017. Governor Asa Hutchinson had an overall approval rating, according to Talk Business and Politics and Hendrix College, of 53% overall. Now that is, and I guess among Republicans, and this is the key number, in February of 2017, Republicans at 72%. Then you go to April. Overall, he had increased a 56% approval rating overall. Republican, the rating in April of 2017 had increased to 76%. But something has happened since April of 2017 and October of 2017 when they have run this last poll. 45% approval rating. So he's now under 50% overall with the state. And that is a direct correlation to this next number. Republicans in Arkansas, according to, again, Talk Business and Politics and Hendrix College, now approve 59%. 59% of us approve of Republicans reprove. That is key. 59% of Republicans. So 76% of Republicans approved in April, only 59% approve in October, while Donald Trump, in this same poll, has a 79% approval rating among Republicans. This is telling for the governor's prospects at re-election. And certainly, we'll see what happens. Again, Jan Morgan is speaking at the Lincoln Day Dinner in Mississippi County, the Holiday Inn, this Saturday night. Mark on Facebook writing, great show. We need nominations for future characterizations. We want the nephews and Dan Douglas. They want caricatures of Dan Douglas and the nephews, do you? James Fedor on Facebook writing, back again to get Harrellized. I don't know about that one. I haven't coined that phrase. But hey, let the listeners. You guys do whatever you want to do. I just appreciate you taking the getting the material. And Mark again on Facebook writing, let's get T-shirts of the Asa face. Let's get T-shirts with an inside pocket for the smartphone, screen out, and strategically positioned to play video of big spenders. Circles by bobbleheads. Now we're getting very intricate. But hey, I love a good protest. Why not? Why not do it? Why not make it as intricate as possible? You know how they have the cards, the Christmas cards, you open up and they play music? We'll have T-shirts that do it. You'll press, you'll press your pocket and it'll play some music for you.
Yeah, this one we can have Ace on the front and have the pocket, have this logo on the pocket, and on the back, just something else.
Yeah, let's do it.
A couple other bobbleheads. Him and his buddies. So the nephews, Dan Douglas, and a couple other people.
Hey,
also caricature bobbleheads of them.
We're trying to communicate complex political ideas of these guys' records, and people want to spare no expense when it comes to the level of irritation it will cause the people you disagree with politically.
You know what the top of the shirt will say on the back?
What?
Paul? Welcome to the 1835 Club.
Ah, hey, yes. Now that is good. We'll maybe get to work on that too. Folks, as always, we appreciate you listening. We can't do the program without you. If you haven't considered partnering with us to make the show better, I want you to go to patreon.com/thephp. That's patreon.com/thephp, and consider giving us $5 a month for extra content, $10 a month for extra content and features, or $25 a month for all that below, plus your Liberty Machine t-shirts. Maybe pretty soon, your Ace of Face t-shirts, Big Spender t-shirts. Who knows? Who knows where we're going with this? You never know. Arkansas, you can catch up at paulharrell.com. Audio, video, it's all for free. paulharrell.com. Arkansas, be safe. We'll see you tomorrow.